Welcome to another edition of Top Shot, in which we interview the top personality who talks to us about various issues concerning you and me. Today, we are very fortunate to have someone like Dr. Vandana Shiva, and we are meeting in her office, the Navadnath office, going to talk to her about various issues related to you and my concerns. So Vandana ji, thank you very much for agreeing to participate in this program, and very nice to see your office here, wherein I can see variety of different type of food. I hope it's all organic.
We only deal with organic, Suresh ji.
And I wish I could always eat such organic food. That's the desire of, I'm sure, many of us.
I wish all of India was served organic food because it's the only way to feed India.
But tell me, suppose if all of us were to eat this organic food, 1.1 billion people, do you think we have enough land and enough productivity to feed people with the organic food, sans fertilizers, pesticides and all?
There's a big myth that has been put out since the days of the Green Revolution, that the Green Revolution intensified agriculture. And then the assumption is the more intensive agriculture is, the more it will produce. But all that the Green Revolution did was intensify chemicals in agriculture. Biological productivity actually went down. Unit acre of land produced less biomass and less nutrition. In fact, organic farming is the biologically intensive form of farming. Chemical farming is the chemical intensive form of farming. And when you use more chemicals, you have to borrow, farmers get into debt, your water gets polluted, your food gets poisoned, your climate gets altered because the nitrogen oxides your nitrogen fertilizers emit are part of the greenhouse gases causing climate change. On the other hand, when you biologically intensify through ecological organic farming, you not only conserve biodiversity, you conserve water, you conserve the soil, you protect the atmosphere, and you produce more food and you produce better quality food. So I think it's time now that we shed these false illusions of industrial chemical agriculture. The Food and Agriculture Organization had invited me last summer, and the FAO is having to recognize that the productivity of organic is higher than the productivity of chemical if measured honestly in terms of food output and incomes for the farmers.
But is the FAO has come out with some report on this or something?
FAO has a whole report on organic farming across all ecosystems, across all levels of poverty and wealth. In every part of the world, if you measure production in biological terms and in nutritional terms, organic farms are producing more. And if you measure it in terms of incomes farmers are getting, organic farming is bringing higher returns to farmers.
Yeah, because right now they're getting higher price than the products which are produced by non-organic farming method. But if the non-organic farming goes away, then probably this type of a comparison will not be valid.
Well, the only reason organic farming seems to be a little more costly is because everything in chemical agriculture is subsidized.
Yeah.
But it's not the real price. Soya bean seems to be cheap, but it's subsidized up to $190 a ton. The costs of destroying the Amazon forests to produce more soya bean, more palm oil in the Indonesian rainforests, all those costs are not internalized.
Yeah.
If we were to do an honest economics of agriculture, the small farm emerges as the most productive unit. The biological, ecological, organic farm emerges as the most productive unit, and in fact, the only way to feed the world. Why is it that 1 billion people are hungry while we industrialize farming more and more and more? And now industrial farming cannot even take the claim that it produces cheap food, because now food prices are increasing.
That's it.
Because food is no more produced for nourishing people.
Yeah.
It's no more food produced to meet the needs of the hungry children. The UNICEF report has just showed that 47% of our children are not getting enough to eat. Systems of agriculture that are based on the rights of people are the ones that can meet these needs, and organic farming is focused on food and nutrition, not on profits of giant agribusiness.
So what does Navadnath do to address these issues?
Well, I started Navdanya 20 years ago.
Okay.
And really came out of my fortunate presence at a meeting in Geneva organized by the United Nations, where they were talking about the new technologies, the new biotechnologies. And the industry was there, United Nations people were there, independent scientists like me were there, some activists were there. And the discussion on biotech started. And very rapidly, the industry laid out its plans. It said, we need an agreement in the GATT at that time, the General Agreement on Trade and Tariffs, that will allow us to have patents on seed so that we can make more profits by forcing farmers to buy seed every year. They said it is unfair that farmers save seed. For them, it's unfair because they want to make more profits. They wanted all seeds to be genetically engineered, whether or not there was a need, and they wanted all limits to ownership and concentration of the seed industry to be removed. When I thought of this control over the first link in the food chain, I thought this would be the ultimate dictatorship, total control of our food system. And the idea that seed, which is given by nature, evolved by farming societies, our grandmothers, our grandfathers over millennia, to now be told it's an invention of a company, for me was unjust, it was unethical. So I thought I should start saving seeds to keep seeds common, to keep seeds protected, and to allow biodiversity to evolve so that we would not be condemned to a monoculture. Let me just give you some figures. In the last decade of global trade, the 4 crops that have grown most are genetically engineered soya, genetically engineered corn, genetically engineered cotton, and genetically engineered canola. What happens to the hundreds of our rice varieties? What happens to the spices we need to pepper up our food, the spices behind us out here? So we started to save seeds, every seed that we could find. And then we started to work with farmers to make them go organic. Then the farmers gave us a kick and said, we protect these seeds with such love. We grow this food with such care. And then we have to sell it in the same mandi where it's all chemical. So you have to respect our food now and help us market it. That's when 10 years ago, Navdanya took the commitment to bring this clean, fair, honest food straight to people. And we started to change the language. We said, no, people are not consumers. If they eat with thought, if they think of what is costing the land, the earth, the water, the biodiversity, the farmer, then the consumer is no more a consumer, he's a co-producer. He's shaping the production system. So now we have membership of co-producers in cities. We have outlets where we bring things directly from the farmers. We have cooking classes. We have nutritional classes. We work with children. We have edible schoolyards, sagwadis we call them, with the schools. We have little kids coming in as chefs, little chefs campaigns. And our dream is to ensure that the biodiversity that this land is so richly endowed with, 200,000 rice varieties we used to have, we have saved about 3,000.
Really?
We've saved about 3,000. Orissa has 600. On our farm in Dehradun, we grow about 500. In Tamil Nadu, we save 250. Every state where rice grows, we have managed to save 150 varieties of rajma. We only know the red rajma.
Yeah.
And dals that we had forgotten how to eat, the gehet, the beautiful, nutritious gehet, that is some of the richest sources of protein. Our own gur, we made sugarcane farmers organic and also process it organically. So our dream is that these systems become the alternative. We've started also working in Vidarbha last year on the seeds of hope. We brought the seeds to farmers, we helped them go organic, and now we are telling people, if you want to stop farmer suicides, don't wait for a Prime Minister's package that in any way did not stop the suicides. There's 1 suicide a day in Vidarbha. What you need to do is ensure, if you're in Maharashtra, buy the tur dal that a farmer grows. That is the way to stop the suicides.
I think we'll come to the suicide a little later. But tell me what this Navadna stands for. I mean, what is the name really? How does it evolve?
Well, you know, when I decided in Geneva that seeds need to be saved, I was largely inspired by Gandhi's spinning wheel. I said, dictatorship came before. How did we deal with it? And I thought of Gandhi pulling out the spinning wheel to deal with the British Empire. I said, today's spinning wheel is the seed. It is how nature spins life, reproduces life. It's how the farmer spins food. So this is our new spinning wheel. But the language of that time for all of this used to be genetic resources. Now I tried translating this into Hindi. I tried asking my Bengali friends to translate it, and it reduced to atoms of the plant, no way to inspire a farmer to save seeds. Fortunately, in one of my seed collection trips down in Tamil Nadu, in the Veerappan land, where because of Veerappan nobody could enter, so nobody had destroyed their farming, there was this tribal farmer with 9 crops in his field. And since I had by then really become passionate about biodiversity, I started counting, oh, you have castor, you have tur, you have moong, you have all these, you have 9 crops in your field. And he just looked at me like this. He said, Navdanya. I said, you're talking as if it's something very obvious, but I've never seen 9 crops in a field before. And he explained to me how the 9 crops in the field reflected the 9 planets. And by growing 9 crops, Navdanya, you were conserving the cosmic balance, the earth's balance, and your body's nutritional balance. That's the day I decided, I said, this movement for seed saving, we will call it Navdanya. But I love the word itself because it means 9 seeds, which is the highest you can reach mathematically, the highest digit, so the highest diversity. But it also means a new gift. Nav, Naya, Dan, gift. So it's both the highest diversity as well as a new culture of giving, sharing in a period where the companies want to say, this is mine, and no one else can have the seed.
So this means too many things to too many people. But just to talk about, you talked about seeds. I always wonder, you are a one-woman army fighting against establishment. You are an institution in yourself. You have created a huge organization now. I know about it. We'll talk about how big is the organization, how you could spread that. But tell me something, how the seed of this rebellion came in you. How do you think about fighting this system all the time?
Well, I'm basically a physicist. And my priorities when I was doing my PhD in quantum theory of all things was to live with my psi function on paper and pen quietly the rest of my life. But while I was a student, the Chipko movement started. I come from Dehradun, I come from the Himalaya. My father used to be a forest conservator, so I have traveled the mountains and seen those forests disappear. I'm a Pahadi. And I walked 40 miles a day with my dad and later in trekking. And in the process, he saw the forest disappear. And when Chipko started, the movement to embrace the trees, I just became a volunteer. I joined village satyagrahas because they were engaging in satyagraha. And very rapidly realized that my deep love for nature that had been sown because of my parents' background, I needed to express it in solidarity with the women in the forests, and became an activist without choosing to be one, only for my love for the forests. But out of that, I learned so much about Gandhi, I learned so much about satyagraha, I learned so much about self-governance. All of this came a second nature. Then the Ministry of Environment, on the basis of the fact that I started to write a lot about all these issues, suddenly I was an environmentalist. I saw myself as a physicist, but I was now an environmentalist. Ministry of Environment asked us to do the study on the mining in Doon Valley. And that was the first legal case that was brought to the Supreme Court on environmental grounds. And Justice Bhagwati was the Chief Justice. He gave a ruling that when commerce destroys the environment, because the environment means life support, then commerce must stop because life must go on.
New chapter in jurisprudence.
Totally new chapter. But in the process I said, my God, I can keep doing physics and there are millions of physicists around the world. One less physicist won't matter. Few less papers in Physical Review D. But if one case like this can save entire valleys, let me give a little more of my life to working on environmental research. Then the United Nations invited me. While I was doing this big United Nations study, it was linked to the center here in Delhi, Center for Studies in Developing Societies. Punjab, violence burst, 1984. The study I was doing for the United Nations was on conflicts over natural resources. Now, I had been keeping clippings about the river conflicts in Punjab. But 1984 June, the rivers disappeared. It was suddenly communal. It was Sikhs, it was Khalistan, it was Bhindarwale, it was Golden Temple, and after that the whole politics was communalized. But I knew something else was going on because the river conflicts were very much there. Even today, Punjab is not giving Satluj waters. Amrinder Singh, when he was Chief Minister, passed a new law to say Punjab waters is out. So why did these natural resource conflicts disappear, and what was really going on in Punjab? I decided to study, asked the United Nations, I want to study this as a conflicts over resources thing. And out of that came my book called The Violence of the Green Revolution, because I realized that what we were seeing as conflicts and which were being defined as communal were in reality conflicts over water, conflicts over land. They were results of a non-sustainable way of doing farming. The soil had got depleted. Monocultures had been created of rice and wheat, and even the government's now worrying about these monocultures. Pesticide use had increased. 10 people per village in Punjab now have cancer because of this excessive use of pesticide. The groundwater had absolutely gone down, and in other places water logging had destroyed.
People are worried that Punjab may become desert one day.
And the Punjab conflicts were related to a model of development of agriculture. That's when I started to realize there was all the truth about agriculture was not being told. Vested interests linked to sending chemicals and costly seeds had taken over our agriculture system. This was driven by the United States as a conditionality in 1965. Lal Bahadur Shastri had clearly said, let us test this on a small scale. Don't impose it on a large scale. And the youth said, no, you've got to turn it into national policy. Punjab was the result. So for me, this became a contest of the dominant view as a scientist first. And nothing is stronger for your own support than your conscience and your truth. Yeah. And then when the company said they wanted to own seed and monopolize seed and genetically manipulate seed, that's when I said, all my energies have to join with the energies of this planet to defend the life on this earth.
So that seed was there, it got germinated through various issues that came up, and you really started moving on those issues. How you are able to penetrate this movement now? Has it become a mass movement, or is it something that you try to make as an act as a crusader?
No, it's, I believe the issues are so important they can't hang on one crusader. One crusader might get to talk to you, Suresh, but one crusader cannot save all the farms of this country, cannot save all the seeds of this country, and cannot save the freedom of the country. It is now a mass movement. When I started, I worked with one student, former student of mine from Bangalore days, and two fellow activists of CHIPCO, Pandurang Hegde and Vijay Charthari. And I said to them, seeds need to be saved, let's start. Only what little money I had, I would spend on seed collection. And I realized this was too big. We couldn't manage it this way. So I went to the FAO and the Food and Agriculture Organization, having worked on plant genetic resource conservation, supported us in the initial days. We just started in 3 places. Today we have community seed banks where communities have their own seed supply in 42 places, 42 community seed banks. In India. 3 lakh farmers are members, and a member in Navdanya is someone who pledges to save seeds because they received it from their ancestors, practices it, and also takes a pledge to go to organic farming. But it's an even bigger movement when you realize how many people take part in the campaign. Unfortunately, the government tried to pass a law called the Seed Act, and the Seed Act would have made it illegal for farmers to have their own seed. We mobilized on this on a national scale, as a result of which it has not gone through Parliament, and I hope with people like you in Parliament, it will never see the light of day, because we need laws to promote biodiversity, not to destroy it. We need laws to promote farmers' freedom, not to take it away. Today, I think this force on the ground is so strong that there are regions where farmers are totally free in their seed supply. It's in regions where farmers have lost their seed sovereignty that suicides are happening.
Well, one concern always, it sounds really good. In fact, given a choice, everybody would like to eat an organic food. But the concern is really the food security, because when we talk about 1.1 billion here, 6 billion globally, and going to be 10 billion soon, and already the food prices are at a peak. Yeah. In fact, probably at the recorded history, we never had a food prices reaching such a high level at a time when food production has also gone up. So basically, if you start moving, suppose we accept that you succeed in convincing everybody, and we really move towards a system wherein no chemical fertilizers are used and only organic fertilizer, can the food security really be taken care of?
In fact, in today's period of climate change and rising food prices, ecological organic farming linked to local distribution systems is the only way to guarantee food security locally, nationally, and globally. Why are food prices rising? There are really 3 factors behind it. Climate change is leading to increased drought. Australia, Argentina have lost a large part of their wheat supply. And at a time where they're losing their wheat, in spite of being wheat self-sufficient, we are turning to them to import wheat. Totally wrong idea. The second reason food prices are going up is food, instead of being nourishment, is being treated as a commodity, being traded as a commodity on futures market, being speculated on. And as it becomes a commodity, something else is happening. Food is now becoming fuel. Biofuel is driving up prices as corn and soybean and palm oil move to run cars, sorghum in India. What will happen is food prices will go up. And of course, the third reason is we are putting more and more farmland out of productive activity for agriculture into special economic zones, into concrete monstrosities like this city of Delhi that is exploding into a concrete jungle. If people have to have access to food, we will have to ensure there is local autonomy. Globally traded food will create more and more hunger. Food supply left in the hands of 5 corporations for whom profits matter will make more profits providing fuel than they will feeding the hungry. So we need a very rapid fast forward in this country to do 3 things. First, our agriculture policy and our food security policy have been totally separate. Yeah. Even the ministries are independent. We need to merge them.
Right now, of course, there is a common minister for both.
No, but the 2 state ministers, one is taking India down the path of junk food, more Maggi noodles for lunch meals for children, more McDonald's at our airports, and the agriculture ministry is taking India down to import dependence. I have a case in the Supreme Court on the wheat imports. We will have to make agriculture more linked to food security. 2, we will have to bring back quantitative restrictions. Quantitative restrictions can be removed in a world where there is a level playing field. But if the $400 billion subsidies in the rich countries continue and you remove your import restrictions, either you're destroyed by dumping, you destroy your farmers, or your poor people suffer because the price of food increases because it's linked to international markets.
I think we'll continue with this very interesting dialogue. We'll just take a short break. Please don't go away. We are talking to Dr. Vandana Shiva on some very interesting issues concerning food security, biodiversity, farmer suicides and many others. Don't go away. We'll come back soon. We are talking to Dr. Vandana Shiva about very interesting issues related to agriculture, food security and many others. Thanks for joining us again. Vandana ji, we are talking about food security and we mentioned, normally agriculture can be done by various ways. Intensive agriculture, you use chemicals or you don't use chemicals, but you can't do agriculture without 2 things, land and water. I wish there is a technology which is developed to do agriculture without the 2. Now our problem in India is only 2.2% of the land, only 4% of the water. And now when we talk about how do you actually use these 2 scarce resources to maximize productivity, to feed many people, are you really thinking about a holistic approach to manage all the 3 issues? Finally, the products will come out of this too.
Well, when we developed the model, Navdania's model of sustainable agriculture, of course, it has to be the best use of the soil and different soils in different regions. The best use of the water endowment, 1 inch in Rajasthan and 400 centimeters in Dehradun. Very, very different water. The biodiversity itself as a natural capital in farming. One thing that is often forgotten when these percentage of land in India is measured with percentage of land elsewhere is in the United States and Europe, they have 1 cultivation season. We are so well endowed with the sun that why was Nandigram and Singur such an issue? Because it was 3 crop and 4 crop land. A person might have just half an acre, but it's equal to 4 acres by the time you had put the biodiversity and factored that in and the rotations. So the secret of maximizing limited land use is mixtures and rotations. The secret of reduced water use in agriculture, and we've done lots of experiments on our farm, is not to do the kind of intensive farming based on intensive chemicals. Chemicals need water. They create soil thirst. In fact, water is applied to dissolve the chemicals. Otherwise, as farmers say, jala deta hai, it just burns the soil and burns the crop. Organic farming reduces water by a factor of 10 straight away. But not
so
only...
you need only 1/10 of the water?
You need only 1/10 of the water if you do the right kind of organic farming. But the most important point about organic farming is not only reduces the water use, it also conserves the little bit of soil moisture availability. In Bundelkhand, we are working with farmers right now. Bundelkhand has reached the eye of the storm in politics in Uttar Pradesh. Rahul Gandhi went there, Mayawati held a rally. All of that is related to an intensified drought. The farmers there are reporting to us that where the bunding has been destroyed and nothing to hold the water, the drought is more severe. Where local seeds have been given up and purchased seeds have been introduced, the drought is more severe. Where mixtures have been sacrificed, the most beautiful mixtures we used to see of linseed and til and chana of the most rich kind and the best of wheats in the country grow in Bundelkhand. The kathia gehu needs hardly any water, rain-fed. Now, if we can conserve varieties that use less water, do organic farming that conserves moisture in the soil through organic matter, and reduce irrigation because you have managed to conserve more moisture in the soil, we have solved the problem of water abuse in agriculture. 70% of water use is in agriculture.
Yeah, but looking at land, the choice is not just between organic farming or chemical farming. The land also is required for a variety of other purposes, including forest. For example, we want 1/3 of the land to be reserved for forest. We also need the same land for housing. We need the same land for other recreational purposes. Now, the land being limited, how do you actually make sure that the best land is used for agriculture and the best land is what is really required for forest, because that's a biodiversity issue, that is reserved for forest, and only other land can be used for industry or housing for other purposes? How do you do that nationally?
Well, when I joined the Chipko movement, the demand was very simple. These forests of the Himalaya are not sources of timber. They are sources of water. And forests...
They're rainforest.
And forests in the catchment need to be saved for supply of water. Fortunately, in 1981, we got a ban on logging, and today the Uttarakhand forests are managed for water and soil stabilization. That is the kind of policy we need at the national level. We need to take, it's not a very tough task, we need to map the country's vital, vulnerable catchments and put that hands off for any kind of development, whether it be mining or it be logging, and we have to say, this is for our water security. The second level, we have to say, this is for forests, and having worked in the forest protection movement for so long, I know how vital forests are for agriculture. We do need 1/3 of our land under forests, and I am among those who feels that the tribal rights recognition law should recognize the rights of tribal to live in the forests as forest communities, not to live in the forests as urbanites. And that's why we do need utilization requirements in terms of tied with those forest sites. Traditional forest dwellers do not want to destroy the forest. It's the encroachers, the mafias who want to take over the land, who would want to destroy the forest. In terms of agricultural land itself, I think it's high time we treated our soil as the most important heritage and defined zoning laws to protect the most fertile lands. My heart weeps when I go home to Dehradun and see the entire fertile belt between the Ganga and Yamuna, which should never have come under concrete, being drowned under this cancer of urbanization. Now, I don't call this housing. Luxury apartments for the rich, golf courses, swimming pools, supermarkets is not housing for the masses.
Yeah, I understand, but just tell me, first of course I fully appreciate that soil security is as important as water security and food security. So if you don't talk about soil security, which we don't talk in country, just land has no meaning unless the soil, which is actually the result of millions of years of natural activity. But talking about now, for example, take our population 1.1 billion, would be 1.6 to 1.8 billion.